I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, hello. This is Christina Barton watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barnes. Today, we're going to be talking about Kamala Harris finally relenting to the debate rules, which is about time because ABC, said that they weren't changing them, and the Biden-Harris campaign is one who set them. But she's been going back and forth about the mics, and her team was trying to get ABC to change their minds, and something that they said to them was so interesting to me, very funny, very humorous, and that's why I'm talking about it. They said that the debate format fundamentally disadvantages her. So I would never say something like that if I had a campaign and I was running a campaign. I was talking about my candidate. I really wouldn't want people to think that they had weaknesses and stuff, especially debating. When you're like a prosecutor, it may not be like the cross-examination style that she wants, but with a kind of a free flow of information. But that doesn't mean that you should be fundamentally disadvantaged. So I just think that's funny. I want to talk about it in this article from Politico. And also I want to talk about, or at least briefly touch on, some news that came out yesterday about the DOJ indictment, talking about how some Russians were paying a media company, a right-wing media company, as a tenant media that is owned by Lauren Chen and her husband. And some people are putting some dots together about Lauren and, questioning some statements and some changes that she's appeared to make. But there was other right-wing people connected with Tenet, as far as doing contract work, and they apparently didn't know where all the money was coming from involved in this, and so they appear to be victims of this. And Lauren tried to, I guess, cover it up where the money and stuff was coming from. So it's not a good look, because the Democrats are always wanting to say Russia this, Russia that. Funny thing though is she's recently, kind of denounced Trump because of his takes, but maybe it's not just because of her takes. Maybe it's because the Russians don't want him to win. And so that's why she's been saying what she's been saying. But anyway, we'll be talking about that and some other things. But before you jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys, go to blackteanews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. Like please share the one about the losers and suckers debunk story, because people are still pushing that. Kamala Harris HQ is pushing that. So I was like posting my article links under that and the other places, and people are retweeting it and stuff. I'm like, please just let this die. It's not true. It's been debunked. But John Kelly, he said John Kelly was the one who told Trump not to go to the cemetery. And there's a lot of good information in there in other articles. So please go ahead and share that stuff. Absolutely. Please check out different merch that's also available on the website. That's another way that you guys can support. I got the GOAT hoodie, and I do have a GOAT t-shirt as well, and they are in different colors. GOAT stands for greatest of all time, in case you did not know. I also have the I am not the victim you're looking for tee. A lot of people like that one. And I got other ones. You guys can also check out some of my books I've written. You guys can just search my name on Amazon. I have 2 nonfiction books, which one of my books is, of course, God is Bluntly Against Abortion. So go ahead and check that out. And there's this scholar, biblical scholar. I've mentioned him a few times, who has a huge following on TikTok, and atheists love him, and just people who are anti-Bible. I'm not saying that Christians don't listen to him, but he's supposed to be like a Mormon guy who, I think he's just an atheist who parades around as a Muslim, but I mean not Muslim but Mormon. But he usually says things that are just so contrary to the Bible, and he's a progressive Democrat, and so every time he makes a video about the subject of abortion, he'll say there's no plausible way that you can take the Bible and come to the conclusion that it's anti-abortion. And I'm like, no plausible way. Let's say there was some conflicting data, but you say there's like no plausible way. And in one of his videos, he said there's no way, there's nothing like that supports that in Judaism or early Christianity, which isn't true. There's a ton of church history, even from like the first century, of different church fathers and documents on Christianity and the teachings that say that abortion is murder. Abortion itself is murder, and that women who kill their children, they're murderers. That's just church history, and for centuries and so on. So to not have that data is pretty interesting. So I was going back with someone earlier today because they're like, no, he's not biased. I'm like, how can you never present that data to your audience though? Even if you want to come to the conclusion yourself that, I don't know, God gives us the choice or whatever, or we should have the choice, and whatever explanation you get to twist the Bible to get to that point, but to not present the evidence and to just state a conclusion is just crazy. And his whole theme is like data over dogma, but he doesn't present the data. So anyway, I include some of that church history in the book, right in the beginning, actually in the intro. And but it covers a lot about rights and science and theology, and why we need to at least treat life like it's inherently valuable, and like we are inherently valuable, even if you don't have a religious background, because at the end of the day, we still have to live with each other. And if you can decide on your whims that I'm not a person and you can kill me, that's not a great thing. That's not a great thing. So there's that. So I recommend you check it out. I do have a second edition of the book that has a lot more stuff in it, so you guys can check that out. Also, I have other books as well, 18 altogether. So the rest of my books are fiction. And I'm very excited about my book, my children's book, Bigger. Hopefully we'll have that done by the end of the year. Plan to have it at Comic-Con at the very least. So hopefully you guys can have something to order for your kiddies for Christmas. But I asked my nephew, like, oh, are you very excited? Because he was like the original inspiration for it. He's going to the 4th grade now. Time flies by. I don't remember how quite young he was, but he was like a toddler, and he used to say like, he wants to get bigger, and he's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and he just kept repeating it. And I just remember being at Applebee's one night, and he was like kind of standing in the seat in the like the booth, and he just kept repeating it bigger and bigger. And I was like, what if I made a story about a little dinosaur? So I just kind of quickly wrote this story, and so I've had it for a while, written for a while. I just didn't really want to do the illustrations myself, and I asked my sister to do it, and so she's finally kind of hunkering down and to get it done. So I'm excited about it. But on Sunday, he started throwing out some numbers for his cut, and I'm like, wait a second. Like he's thrown out some like astronomical numbers. My sister's like, maybe we'll set up a college fund or something, but can't like take half my profits. Like, what the heck? And I'm like, who introduced this to this kid? But I get he's always asking about money and taxes, and he's just interested in those things, and he's in the 4th grade. So watch out. Maybe Daniel one day will run for office and lower your taxes because he knows that stuff is not fun. Because we do teach him about the evil big bad government who takes your money. So anyway, let's jump into this Kamala Harris story. So she has agreed to the debate, and people were wondering if she was trying to like get out of it at all because she was just holding it up for so long. And she's finally agreed. And people were like, okay, well, does she want these to go through the whole timeline or saga rather? Donald Trump agreed to these rules. These rules were originally set by the Biden Harris campaign. Trump was saying anytime, any place, anywhere. And so Joe Biden was like, okay, here's 2 debates. They're going to be on such and such day, CNN and ABC. These are the rules. And so folks are concerned about, okay, they're totally making these particular rules to benefit Joe Biden. It's like Trump really can't say no after saying anytime, any place, anywhere. So he accepted, and, all the sort of stipulations that they had, and they scheduled the debates. And we know how the first one went. It was a crash and burn for Joe Biden. Not only was it a crash and burn for Joe Biden, it actually, did pretty well for Trump. As a matter of fact, Don Jr. Now he probably still wants a crowd, and he probably still wants it to be unmuted, but his son Don Jr. had tweeted out after the debate, like, "Oh, I actually prefer this. And I think these rules like really help because it made him more, more focused and disciplined as he just took down Biden like point by point or whatever." So, Trump's kind of like, whatever, with the mics. He doesn't care if they're muted. His team wants them to continue to be muted because it worked out pretty well for him. And people were saying, oh, you have to stay with the debate rules. You already agreed to it. And he wanted a Fox News debate. He really didn't want an ABC because they're talking about George Stephanopoulos being the moderator. And so he's like, I got legal, stuff with him, and he's a hack, which he's a hack. And so he was kind of floating, like, trying to change things. And Kamala's team, the Democrats, were like, no, you can't change things. You already agreed. And the people on the right were saying he agreed to this with an entire different person. She she was his team, Biden Harris, it was, but now he's going up against Kamala Harris. So yes, we need more debates and you're gonna have to negotiate. Now he tried to get a Fox News on actually before the one that would have happened on Tuesday, and she wouldn't agree to that. And they're like, we're not doing anything with Fox because it got proven in court that they were lying, talking about the Dominion software case, which is interesting because CNN has definitely had to pay out defamation lawsuits in before, and their Jake Tapper, who was the moderator, is being sued and CNN right now for lying on somebody, and purposely there's evidence of meaning to do harm. Like defamation, you can't just, it's not just you said something about somebody, it's like you got to prove like the malice. They got text messages to prove that they wanted to actually nail the guy, and I think nail the guy was like what they actually said. So we did cover that. If there's some updates on that story, I'll let you guys know. But it was just an excuse. She just didn't want to debate on Fox, and I get why she doesn't want to. But if you got Brett Baer and like Martha McCallum, they'll be pretty fair to both of them. Brett has had interviews with Trump where he just like asks like normal questions, but they still cut deep, so they can be, good to both of them. Like I wouldn't have Sean Hannity do it, but she doesn't want to go on Fox because she wants to make it as easy as she possibly can for her, evidenced by her tactics as of late. So they were like, no more debates about debates. We're going to do such and such day, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of just declared it was over, like the debates, but about the debates, but yet they were still trying to change the rules. So we know that Kamala Harris wanted to sit down, and she probably wants to sit down because he's so much taller than her and he will be towering over her. and probably thinks that'll be a bad look, visually, when you're thinking about a world leader versus someone who's very big versus someone who's very small. And you could always be the I'm attacked or whatever, but that she wants to be the tough prosecutor. So, she might still play the victim, or other people might let her play the victim or play her as a victim. But that I don't think that's a great look when you're looking for a commander in chief. So one of the reasons why she probably just wanted to sit down. She wanted notes. We can all guess why she wanted notes, right? But she wanted the mics to be unmuted. So she was trying. Her and her team were trying to use tactics, almost like reverse psychology or whatever, like tactics to try to trick Trump into changing the rules himself with ABC. And they're like, oh, well, Trump, it's such a shame that Trump, he's so afraid. His team is so afraid that he's going to just be a wild man and he won't, just have the mics on and he can't control himself. So, Trump's thing was like, I don't care either way, but we should just probably just stick to the rules that were agreed upon. And Trump's team's like, no, we're going to just stick to the rules that we agreed upon. And so she finally relented today, just in time. So, yeah, of course, I think obviously they want Trump to have space to become a wild man and just attack and come off really bad to the American people. That first debate with Joe Biden, he didn't look good. And I don't think Joe Biden looked good in that debate either, but people were like, you know what, Trump, you're a little much. And his poll numbers started going down at that point. So I think they clearly want him to basically hang himself, give him the rope, he'll hang himself. Not literally, just YouTube or Facebook, people censors up there. I'm not talking about murder or unaliving, just we're talking about, not hypotheticals, but, metaphors and so on. So that's one aspect, but she really wanted to interrupt him. She wanted to have a I'm speaking moment, like what happened with Mike Pence. That's what she wanted. But that's not even the only thing, guys. That's not the only thing. Okay? That's not the only thing that she wanted. She wanted, according to her team, they wanted a Kavanaugh moment. That's what the Politico reported. As you know, she's done a lot of cross-examination kind of stuff in her career, but actually not that much in her career, but in her career in the Senate as well. And she would have moments that went viral when she did certain questioning. And then the clapping seals, they'd clap and they'd say, yes, Queen Slay, and so on. And a lot of times, sometimes people say Kristen, you need to go in politics. And I did run for actually Congress once. And my dad was like, you should try it again. I'm like, I don't want to. I really don't want to. But sometimes watching those confirmation hearings and, and just different stuff they do, so it's just clowns on parade. So many times people asking questions and you can see them setting up to get to grandstand about nonsense. And so many times with Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, by the way, it seemed like that's what it was. I want a viral moment at any cost. And some people on the left, they were quite pleased with some of those viral moments, but some of them were just insane. Let me see if I can find really quick the one with the ICE and the KKK. Yep, I found it. So if you haven't seen, this is an example of just nonsense from Kamala Harris that she is known for. Yeah.
Klan was what we would call today a domestic terrorist group.
Why? Why would we call them domestic terrorist group?
Because they tried to use fear and force to change political environment.
And what was the motivation for the use of fear and force?
It was based on race and ethnicity.
Right. Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? And do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between
I'm talking about perception.
officers and agents.
I'm talking about perception.
I do not see a parallel between what is constitutionally mandated as it relates to enforcing the law.
Are you aware
protecting
that there's a
people's rights. I
perception?
see no.
Are you aware
perception
that there's a
that puts
perception?
ICE in the same category as the KKK? Is that what you're asking me?
No, I'm very specific about what I'm asking you. Are you aware of a perception that the way that the discretion
I see no parallel.
I'm not
I
finished.
see none.
I'm not finished. I'm not finished. Are you aware that there's a perception that ICE is administering its power in a way that is causing fear and intimidation, particularly among immigrants and specifically among immigrants coming from Mexico and Central America? Are you aware of the perception?
I do not see a parallel between the power and the authority that ICE has to do its job and the agents and officers who do it professionally and excellently with lots of compassion.
Sir, how can you be the head of an agency and be unaware of how your agency is perceived by certain communities?
There is a lot of perceptions in the media and in the public that are incorrect about the agency.
But the
and what it
perception
does.
exists, would you agree? Whether or not it's correct. And wouldn't you agree then that if that perception exists, there might need to be some work done to correct the perception?
I do want to advocate for the workforce, the vital public safety mission that they have to protect the homeland. And I think more people need to know how valuable they are to the society. So I agree with you on that.
So I understand your point that you want to defend the honor of the good men and women who work in the agency. And I appreciate that point. And I know the vast majority of the men and women who work in the agency do a noble and good job. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the perception.
What about the perceptions of her that a lot of people have? And she doesn't even want to do press conferences. She doesn't want to do more interviews to correct the record on some of her perceptions or whatever. She just wants to control her bubble and not really speak to the whole of the American people. So, I mean, obviously this is from a couple of years ago, but this was so stupid. The need to turn it so racial with the parallel of the KKK. And now she's the vice president wanting to be the president. How can you believe that she's going to do anything good about the border? After saying comments like that, people can have all kinds of perceptions, which he acknowledged, like, yeah, people can have perceptions, but that doesn't mean that they're correct. And him saying, yeah, sure, people perceive them like the KKK because of fear and intimidation. And, well, if you're going to be deported and you're here illegally, I imagine that you'd be concerned about that and perhaps afraid that that was going to happen. So is any sort of law enforcement person basically a KKK person or paralleled to it? Stuff like this she needs to answer for, man. Because this is what she used her platform in the Senate for. This is what she used her time for. So anyway, people would have, she'd have different moments like this that would go viral. And there was one moment that the Politico article mentioned, I think when she was talking to Kavanaugh, and she asked him, is there any time that a man's body is restricted, or they say a man can't do something with their body? And the answer is yes, all the time. Every single law is basically a restriction on your bodily autonomy. Like, you can't use your body to go kill somebody. There's laws against what drugs you can consume, where you can go. She arrested people who didn't take their kids to school. So even if they missed a lot of days because they were sick and had leukemia or something, she would arrest them. So she knows about, arresting people when they use their body to do something that she's not too fond of. So in principle, yes, people do not have limited bodily autonomy to be able to do whatever they want, and even but with bodily integrity to be able to control what goes in your body or whatever, or your healthcare. You don't have all sorts of authorities to do whatever you want with it either. If you were pregnant, for example, there's particular drugs that they don't allow you to take because they could lead to your fetus being deformed and losing limbs and other things like that. And if you take drugs and that baby comes out with all sorts of issues, you could go to jail for that. So and just taking hard substances yourself, you could be arrested for that. And she's locked some people up for some substances before, so she ought to know there's laws that affect men that tell men that there's certain things that they can't do with their bodies. But my favorite example to use, though, is that men have to register for the draft. So they say every man, you have to sign up when you turn 18 for selective service, and if you do not, you could go to jail. Vietnam, they're tracking people down for dodging the draft and so on. And we have a voluntary force and have been operating off of a voluntary force, but the draft is still in place, and they could very well still draft your sons and tell them that they have to fight and to kill and to die for their country. So, and there's plenty of women who are willing to volunteer to do that. But I didn't have to sign up for a draft when I was 18 years old. I was always pretty big, so I don't think they would have they would have took me. But yeah, it's a silly remark. But there's even one tweet from the Selective Service, and I had retweeted it. It was like a few years ago. But the Selective Service tweeted out, if you are your child's only son, their one and only son, even the only one who can carry on the family name, you still have to register for the draft. I'm like, God, we made that clear. Like, there shall be no heirs for your line. Go register for the draft. But anyway, Kamala Harris wants to create some kind of viral moment like she had in the Senate. Now, the issue with this, I would think in general, is that she can try. She wanted ABC to basically, in volleyball, there's when you like spike a ball, you might hit the ball over, and there's like is it a setter? Is that what it's called? I did play it. It's been so long. And they like pop the ball in the air, and then you jump up and you spike it. They wanted ABC to do that for her, but that doesn't mean that she can actually hit the ball and deliver that spike. Doesn't mean she'd be successful. So even if they said we're going to unmute the mics and just let there be like a free flow of information, and she can cross-examine Trump in the way that she wants to, that doesn't mean that she's going to be able to do it successfully and not come off like an idiot. But like that KKK exchange, there's people out there like, yes, queen, yes, queen. But to normal people, she sounds stupid, especially in hindsight, knowing that she's a vice president and we have a major border crisis. So if they gave her enough rope, that she could probably just hang herself with. But what's really funny though, is that her team argued that the fact that she is a prosecutor and that's her style, that's what she, doing cross-examination, that's her thing. And the fact that she's not able to do that and Trump can shield himself from those kinds of lines of like continuous questioning from her, as opposed to like the debate questions, the moderators, they say that she is fundamentally disadvantaged. Those are their words in a letter to ABC. They wrote in a letter to a news organization that the format of the debate fundamentally disadvantages their candidate. There's no reason why the format, the same one that potato brain Joe Biden had against Donald Trump, the one that the Biden-Harris campaign set up, there's no reason why that should fundamentally disadvantage anyone in any office. You should be able to do a simple debate where they ask questions and you answer. There's a follow-up, etc., etc. There's no reason she should be able to go uninterrupted, boom, 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 doing her segments and attack him. She should. It's just really simple. They ask a question, you begin to answer the question in as many details as you can, and then you shift all of a sudden and attack the person. Like, I would do this, blah, blah, blah. Unlike my opponent here who did this and this, and that's why we're in this mess right here. Very simple. And they'll answer, they'll respond, and you know, they get time, you get time, it goes back and forth a bit. But you should be able to fit that all and get some yes, queen, girl balls to cross-examine him. She wanted the opportunity to come at him. She wanted the opportunity to interrupt him. So I'm speaking, and she didn't just do it to Mike Pence. You know, I'm not finished speaking. I'm just, you saw it in that video that I played. That there's always a bit of that in Kamala Harris, and I'm sure that we'll still see that the debate. And so she'll try to fit it in somewhere. I'm sure that because they have T-shirts probably made and printed up. But ABC said no. And so I don't know if they said this to save face or if they have some kind of inappropriate agreement with the moderators or something. But the Harris campaign claimed that the verbal assurances they have is that at certain points that they will allow like a bit of crosstalk. But if there's something said on a muted mic, that the moderators will let people know like what's being said. And I'm like, what? If you didn't say it during your time, why is it the responsibility of the moderator to be like, America, by the way, Donald Trump called Kamala Harris a $2 whore? Like, why would we do that? Or why would they do that? That's not their job. That's not their job. And Kamala Harris and her team, they also wanted the press pool that's with her to be close enough to the stage to be able to hear any sort of, muted mic moment so they can go and report on it. So I don't know if this is because they want to catch all the little things Trump might say while the mic is hot, or all the things that she wants to say while the mic is muted. But ABC said, we have made no agreements other than the ones that were negotiated in May. So again, I don't know if that's them saving face or if we will find out that they bowed down to her whims. But again, I would have never wrote on paper in a letter to a news organization that has obviously reported it, that they said that their candidate is fundamentally disadvantaged. Now, you could say she's the underdog because he's had a long go at this. He's had a couple presidential debates now, and they had a lot in, 2016, and they had, I guess he didn't have to do any 2020, and he didn't really do any here, but he's done a lot of town halls, and he's used to talking to aggressive media, and he's you could say the point advantaged him, right? But she is the vice president, and she should have more experience as of late talking and dealing with the press. It's very strange that she's only had the one interview in 40 plus days. Not just because she's running for president, but because, again, she is the vice president. So she should be like, she has a very short window to run for president. And she couldn't take the long stretch, by the way, for a full year or two. It's not in her. So so the people can talk about the short time as if it's a really hard ask, but I'm sure that's the draw for her, because they're trying to slide her through and hoodwink the people of America before they really get to know her. But you and I think we've been paying attention long to know that same woman who accused those ICE agents of basically being KKK members, the same woman who, attacked ICE for agents for riding horses and spread the stupidity of they whipped migrants with the horse reins or whatever. She's the same human being, and she'll be the same human being as president. She's not suddenly going to change, because she's still the same dumb person as a vice president. She's not ready for prime time. She's just not. But, she could come in and totally do a great job for some reason, or do an okay job, and Donald Trump could just kind of blow it. So I'm not going to come out here and simp for Trump all of a sudden and be like, oh yeah, he's just totally going to demolish her. I don't want to make any kind of prediction like that and get egg on my face. So, and I don't understand people that do, especially like her fans. So I made a video about this topic earlier on TikTok before I went on my morning walk. And some people were trying to defend her. Someone said, guys, check this out. Someone told me, someone said, you have no experience in politics. Okay. I was a creative director of the Michigan Republican Party in 2016 when we won Michigan, but okay. No experience. Okay. He said, you have to argue against what you want. So you can get what you want. So they don't know what you want. So then you get what you want. And, I'm aware of that negotiating tactic. I've seen people do it on shows like The Apprentice, by the way. I'm aware of that tactic where you let your enemy just kind of think it's not something that you want so you can get it. I'm aware of that. But so they're arguing that Kamala Harris actually wants the mics to be muted. She just had to pretend that she wanted them to be unmuted. Well, this really doesn't make any sense, because they were always going to be muted since the agreement in May. So why would she be the one holding up the debate? Because she's arguing for making the mics hot the whole time. And someone typed that. And it wasn't a child. It was a grown woman. A very grown woman who typed that. And I was going to do a video response to her, but I just wrote a comment basically, saying that doesn't make sense. Why she fought this since May, if that was the case. But it was so remarkably stupid. You can't always just say that bluntly on TikTok. Those comments will get flagged, but it was aggressively stupid. And some people like, no, Kamala just, she just want to go easy on him. That's why she's arguing for the against the muted mics or whatever. She wants to basically give him a handicap, is what they were arguing. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, I'm not going to tell you that Trump is going to come and demolish her, but she's obviously not a good speaker. She's obviously not. She's not. If she could just dominate to a press that's going to be friendly to her anyway, she would have had so many interviews. So many. Not just like ABC, CNN, MSNBC, blogs, and, vlogs and influencers up the wazoo, cooking show, like all kinds of places she'd be doing stuff. But there's a video. Did you guys see the video when she got out the car? Let me see if I got a picture. I don't have a video, I think, saved, but there's a picture. She got out of a car and she had on earphones, and she's holding the phone, and they're not earbuds, they're earphones, like headphones or whatever that's plugged into the phone, and she appears to be talking on the phone to someone to probably avoid the press. Now you could say, Christina, she could have been legitimately talking to someone on the phone. She could have been. That's true. That's a possibility. That is a possibility. However, um, when there's another image of her, and the earphones are still in her ear, and then she's holding the phone like this while they're still in her ear. So both is not happening at the same time. So why is she doing this while they're still in her ear? And it just kind of looks like, I don't know, like a Michael Scott, like a Jim just needs to pop over, like, Michael, are you actually talking on the phone? It's just so silly. Gosh, trying to find it. I'm not looking at my likes. Let me see. She's a odd bird. Very odd bird. Here we go. I found it. So she walked by the press and stuff, and then she's like, you don't need to do that. You don't you just don't need to do that if you're on the phone. It looks like, it's still plugged in there. It just doesn't seem to make any sense to me unless she just got caught up in the pretending there. But she just seems like she didn't want to speak to the press, so that's just kind of how she's avoiding them. Maybe she's drunk. That's a comment. Maybe. Those are some allegations. She seems to speak not as well as she did in her youth, and that's a theory going on. And she kind of does sound like she's drunk. And I have done parodies of Kamala Harris as a drunk because that's what she sounds like. So, I don't know. I just know that something's wrong. I just know that something's wrong. Something's wrong with her. Something's wrong with her team. I can't get over writing to ABC News that you think that your candidate has a fundamental disadvantage than Donald freaking Trump. Like, it's not like he's done well in debates, but he's not a master debater or anything like that. He could very well not do well in the debate on Tuesday. He could very well crash and burn. If you think it's a slam dunk, you're free to think that. I just wouldn't voice in case you're wrong. In 2020, I was not going. No, 2016, I was not going around saying, "Oh, Trump's gonna win. Trump's gonna win." And I was fighting very hard to make that a possibility, or to make that a reality, rather. Very hard, man. I didn't get to do a lot of like the cool fun stuff because I was always busy working in 2016. But the night that it happened, oh my gosh, I was trolling. I was still in Lansing. And so I got on the couch that was in my office, and I just put a blanket over me and was like, I'm so tired from winning. I'm so tired. Like, oh, I was trolling. But I waited. I waited to be able to troll. Like, I didn't want to be one of those, like, think about all the people who thought they had it in the bag who were Team Hillary and they were just sitting crying that night, man. So I still go back and watch some of those compilation videos. Gosh, they're just glorious. Anyway, um, let's move on. Before I talk about the Lauren Chen situation, I want to show you guys this pretty funny takedown tweet. So people are making fun of JD Vance and the interaction he had with ordering some donuts. So Tim Walz has said, I have no problem picking out donuts, Walz reportedly replied, seemingly referencing Vance's awkward interaction in Georgia the week prior. And so this woman, Tina Smith, said, can confirm and tweeted out a picture with him at this bakery. Surprise, surprise. This bakery is now permanently closed because of Tim Walz's lockdowns. So just remember who Tim Walz is. By the way, her points in Minnesota, where he is a governor, has gone down after she picked him. He's just an awful pick, man. Like, I know people want to be like Coach Walz and stuff, but he adds, when you get behind the curtain, the very thin sheet, the very sheer, it's like a dollar store shower curtain, and you pull it back or just rip it down. There's just problem after problem after problem associated with Tim Walz. And it's too bad by the time he has a debate with JD Vance that many people will have voted by then. I mean, that's an issue. That's a problem, but he is just going to be demolished because JD Vance, like, I haven't liked some of the stances and some policies and stuff that Trump and Vance have put out. And I've made my criticism known, so I'm not going to rehash everything right now, but he is good in interviews, man. He is really good. So I want to show you this other clip. Now, people have questioned, with Walz having such crazy backgrounds like the stolen valor stuff and so on, how could he get so far in his career, like in Minnesota? And some people have noted that the media is just like in the tank for him. And so this clip is interesting if you have not seen this.
The governor has agreed to a debate on October 28th. You're not thrilled about that.
Esme, you and I both know that that's a sham. Early voting starts in less than 3 weeks. Come on. What's happening is Tim Walz wants to have one debate as late as he can, potentially after 50% of Minnesotans have voted, and say, see, all the major news programs understand that I've had a debate. At this time, 4 years ago, Tim Walz had participated in 4 debates. He's absolutely been shutting them down. He wants to do this one debate so far into it, just before Halloween, and you know that he's actually using you to put out his message that I want to debate. He doesn't want.
Looks like we lost that feed right there. You were just hearing from Dr. Scott Jensen, and we're going to continue to update you online on this ongoing election. Okay, there is a new...
Now, sometimes you lose feeds. It happens. It happens. But that was suspicious. That was really suspicious, guys. If someone says, hey, by the way, he's using you guys, and people are accusing the local media of basically being his mouthpiece. and you just cut the feed, or the feed just gets cut all of a sudden abruptly, you know, that was one of the most abrupt. Oh my gosh. Uh, anyway, moving on. Let me talk about this before I gotta let you go. Maybe we'll go into more detail about this tomorrow. But last night the DOJ, well, Twitter was a buzzing, or X rather, was buzzing about the DOJ indictment that says some things about Tenet, which I don't think it actually says Tenet, but we know what it is and we know who it's referencing. So Lauren Chen and her husband have a media company called Tenet, and they've been getting money from the Russians to push narratives and, I guess, propaganda, and in some circumstances they've been posting things themselves. And so they've been recruiting other people on the right. Now the folks who they recruited for stuff, they said they're just contractors and their stuff isn't influenced by Russia and all that stuff, and they did not know. Like, there appears to maybe have been some flags, but red flags, but there was a lot of money that they were dishing out, and Lauren and her husband knew and covered it up. So it appears that some of the right-wing influencers who are associated with Tenet are victims. But it doesn't look good on right-wing media at all. So the people also touched, and we'll say they're victims right now: Tim Pool, Lauren Southern, Benny Johnson, and Dave Rubin. And they put out different statements regarding this. Let me see. Let me go to find Tim's real quick. But it's not good. Lauren has not posted anything since then on social media. The Blaze fired her because she was contracted to do work with them. So it's not good. Okay, so he said, my statement regarding the allegations and the DOJ indictment, should these allegations prove true, as well as the other personalities and commentators were deceived and are victims, I cannot speak for anyone else at the company as to what they do or what they are instructed. The Culture War podcast was licensed by Tenet Media. It existed well before any license agreement with Tenet, and it will continue to exist after any such agreement expires. The only change with the agreement was that the location of the live broadcast moved to Tenet's YouTube channel. I and TCW were never produced any content for Tenet Media. By the way, I did get invited to the Culture War. No. It was another Timcast thing. It wasn't Culture War, it was something else. It was some time ago. So it wasn't Culture Wars. It was another Timcast thing. So sorry. I'm like, I for a second I was like, I was almost on Tenet Media, but it wasn't that. Never at any point did anyone other than I have full editorial control of the show, and the contents of the show are often apolitical. Examples include discussion, spirituality, dating, and video games. The show is produced in its entirety by our local team without input from anyone external to the company. TCW is a separate company not associated with timcast.com or other properties. It exists solely for the production of the Culture War podcast. That being said, we still do not know what is true, as these are only allegations. There's some evidence, though. Putin is a scumbag. Russia sucks donkey balls. And to the journalists who wish to jump the gun, create their own narrative, or lie about what is currently going on, you can eat my Irish booty. But yeah. I feel like there was a more PC statement before, but Like, you can talk to my lawyers. But maybe I just skimmed it and I missed that. But yeah, it doesn't look good. Now, what's really annoying about this, beyond they're going to use this to probably try to censor conservative media. Like, it's going to be a domino for sure. I mean, people are already still mad about Elon buying X and the free flow of information, the fact that so many people get information and news from that site, that he is very vocal in support of Donald Trump. And by the way, since Kamala Harris has wanted to censor X and like vocally wanted like Trump kicked off and other stuff like that, why wouldn't Elon like vote in his best interest and be vocal about his best interests? You know, people with a lot of money, at the end of the day, they still have their own voice, they still have their own opinion, and they don't mind when billionaires are vocal and help them. So, you know, there's one on our team. I guess deal with it. You voted for your guy last time. Remember, he voted for Joe Biden last time, and Kamala Harris, they were on the same ticket. So they didn't do their job. They screwed up. When I heard that he had voted for Biden, and he did an interview with, oh gosh, who did the interview with? I don't remember, but I'm just like, you're one of the smartest men in the world. There was so much information to make the right call, and you didn't. So I don't know. Well, there's lots of reasons why he could made a different decision, and he's talked about it sometimes. But I'm glad that he's not, you know, pouring time and money and stuff into the people who are going to censor everybody. So, but it doesn't look good because they're already warning about Russia, which is funny because Putin actually said that he supports Kamala Harris. But you know, I'm sure they'll be like, he only set that for a false flag and to confuse everybody. Okay. No, he probably definitely wants Kamala Harris to be president. I would think so. There's a lot of people who wouldn't respect her on the world stage and would absolutely want America to remain weak and have her be the head. Absolutely. But they're gonna point to that. They're gonna associate all these people who are big names, you know, as far as the right and stuff, with being Russian assets and paid by Russia. And how could you not know? Did you look the other way because the cash was so good? With Lauren, another thing that's annoying is that there was a lot of people on the right who were upset about Trump's abortion comments, and Lila Rose was like floating, like withholding her vote. And so people like Mike Cernovich were like, are these people Russian assets, or are they being paid by Kamala Harris, and like these are grifters and they don't actually care about babies, they're just sowing division. And I'm like, or maybe they want to push their politicians to do better and they're not actually grifting and they really, really care about this topic. But some of his tweets are so outrageous. But in the case of Lauren Chen, he's freaking right. Because she was saying after his 6 weeks comment, she's like, it's one thing to be for states' rights, but it's another thing for this. But I mean, that doesn't mean that that's not her honest opinion, but it's just, you have to question everything now. And I haven't liked her content for a while. I'm not saying that she, like, a video that she does about a movie review isn't like fine, but she's been like Nick Fuentes apologist and an apologist for some of the Candace Owens stuff. Like, she did a video and I did a response to it, but I just never edited and put it up. And I don't know, I feel like it's kind of late now to do it, but she like went through the whole Crisis King thing and talking about Andrew Clavin and what he said and other stuff, and defending people's use of it and I know she hosted a live with Nick Fuentes on it, talking about how they use it in a political way to basically slam people who don't think like them. And it's beyond a religious thing. And when she relayed how that went with her audience, she didn't talk about all the things that Nick said, which were a red flag. And I'm like, you're being dishonest to your audience. And, So I've been very side eye with her as of late myself. So I guess I'm not totally surprised. Um, but it's just a shame. And I've talked a lot recently about some people on the right have just, I don't know, there's a bit of a disillusion there because I question like people's consistency. I've questioned people's honesty. And I don't want to technically maybe have to feel that way because I know some people throw that out, you know, people have thrown accusations at me because they're upset about something that I said and so on. Or people from the left will say, well, you're just paid to say that. You're not actually a black conservative and you're this and you're that, you're a pick me. I'm like, I have a very long and consistent sort of worldview, and some history. There's some meat in these bones, So you can make those accusations, but there are folks out there who are in it for money and are influenced by money and make the wrong turn, and they make folks want to not trust anybody and dip out of politics and disengage, and this Russia stuff is just it's just a stain on the right. Now that doesn't mean everybody's like involved or whatever, and it does really look like Tim and other folks are victims, but I'm sure folks on the left are still going to mention it and mock them for not questioning things more thoroughly and deeply about where all the cash and stuff was coming from, because there were things that happened that were like, they should have tipped some people off if they just wanted to go deeper. So we'll see what happens with the case, and if they can prove what they say to be true, and if the defense can prove it to be false and get their own facts together. But it doesn't look good. And how very interesting the timing of all this when we're so close to people literally getting their ballots. But for the record, people who might say that Lauren is pro Russia and Russia wants to pay because she is, and that's why she's having her platform and she's to promote Trump. She has recently said that she wasn't going to. So, but I'm, content about Ukraine and Russia, I'm definitely, that's influence, I would say. So, fascinating stuff. Just be careful, guys. And, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but we talked about the pro-life girl activist who went and had an abortion. You got to know what you believe and what you stand for. And you can, I appreciate people trust me, but I am human and I can make mistakes. I really try hard not to. And, I try to make sure that what I believe, that there's a line of logic that follows, that's consistent, that I have moral principles that I stand by. And I try to make sure that my stuff is sourced and what I'm saying is true. What I'm delivering to you guys is true. But people need to also validate and do their own research and so on as well. And, don't uplift people too high on particular pedestals, but you have to make sure that you understand why you believe what you believe. And it's not just because I'm conservative because I really liked Rush or I really like Ben or because I really like Christina. You have to figure those things out for yourself. So if, I don't know, someone turns out to fall or change their minds, or in the case of Lauren, be paid by Russia or something, you will still know where you stand. So we all want to be thought-provoking individuals. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show and the conversations. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. please check out different merch that's available. And if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream and run and all that stuff. So you guys can support it. I do very much appreciate it. And please check out some of my books. I have 18 that are all together. 2 are nonfiction, the rest are fiction. So I mean, I talked earlier about some of my nonfiction books, like of course, God is blatantly against abortion, but I do have like young adult books, and I do have children's chapter books like Super Kid. It's about a kid with overactive imagination. He doesn't really have powers, but he teams up. But he believes that he does. So he teams up with this girl in his class who really likes him. Her name is Kiara. She's super smart for her age, and she goes along with it. And she kind of gets him into trouble with her. You know, she has a little problem with lying and has to learn why that's bad. But she's just so smart, she can kind of get away with it. And but she learns her lesson at the end, guys. There's lots of good lessons in here, but she becomes Princess Lady Diva. And so they help out this other kid Lee in their neighborhood. So he actually thinks it's real, so he asks him to train him, so he becomes Stick Man. And they just go around the community trying to do some good. So it's got some good stuff in there. The second book is also really good. It's based off, well, these stories are loosely inspired by some stories by my dad, and especially the villain for the second one named Frostbite. But basically he has to face a bully that's really, really stronger than him, and he doesn't know what to do as this kid is kind of terrorizing the school. And so Felix has to answer the question, like, what do you do when you're facing in an impossible battle? So really good morals in there. I'm sure your kids will like it. It's a fun book if you want to read it with them. And something for them, something for you. I write across a lot of different genres. So anyway, God bless you guys.